Jeremiah and God are having a conversation, and Jeremiah is trying to plead with God about the people of Judah, and God is telling Jeremiah, like, hey, look, I see all their sins. I see they ain't listening to me. They ain't trying to they're not trying to repent and turn from their ways. This is what's about to happen. And so one of the things that God says at the end is, this is your lot. The portion I have measured out to you, declares the Lord, because you have forgotten me and trusted in lies. Now, something to consider here is when he says, because you have forgotten me, that means that at one point they knew who God was. You have to know something first in order to forget it. But they had slidden so far backwards from him, they had forgot that there were laws and standards that were kept in place to keep them right in the eyes of the Lord. You should test every spirit. If you are not testing every spirit, how can you then know the truth? Because if you don't test it, now you're putting yourself in a position to be compromised. And if you're putting yourself in a position to be compromised, you can now be deceived. Because God gives us everything right here in the book. Here's your cheat code to life. Here's the secrets to it right here. Everything that we need to know. But we are responsible for what we believe. And God makes this even more clear in Jeremiah 14, verse 16, where he says, and he's still talking about these prophets who were lying in his name. And he says, by sword and famines, those prophets shall be consumed. And the people to whom they prophesied shall be cast out in the streets of Jerusalem. Why would the people that they prophesied to have to receive consequences of their lies? It goes back to Jeremiah 13:25, and he says, because you have forgotten me and trusted lies. They knew at one point who God was, and they knew about his law and what was right and what was wrong. But at some point, they allowed other people to come in and say XYZ, not tested. Their ears were itching. They wanted to hear something good, something that sounded good. They didn't test the spirit. They fell further away from God. And now they as well are reaping, unfortunately, those consequences as well. Kind of like, this reminds me when I was a kid and I would like tell my sibling something. Like if I was to tell my sibling, like, hey, mom says you can eat all the ice cream. When mom comes in and sees that that sibling has ate all the ice cream, I'm going to get in trouble because I lied. Mom didn't say that. And number two, they're going to get in trouble because they should have known better, number one. Number two, they didn't come and they didn't check with mom to make sure that that's what mom said. And it's kind of that way when it comes to God. You have to make sure that when someone comes and they tell you something, hey, this is the word of the Lord, test it. Hey, God told me to tell you this, test it. Don't just believe what someone says because you love them.